Hello and welcome back to Consciously Creating Your 2025. I'm super excited to be here with my friend Erin Prewitt. Erin and I love collaborating. I'm sure you've seen us together if you've been following me for a while, but it's been a little bit, Erin. So I'm so excited we're back together again on this amazing summit. I know everybody's been enjoying themselves and loving the speakers, and you are going to be definitely no different. They're going to absolutely adore you as well. Everybody's going to want to grab your pens to write down little nuggets of wisdom. And Erin, welcome to the summit.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I like this summit rather than put me on a mountaintop and say Aaron Summit. So thank you for the kind of summit I like.
Perfect. Perfect. You know what? I'm warming up. I don't know if you know this or not, but I live in the mountains now here in Ontario. They're not quite Rocky Mountain size, but we live like top of a mountain and the view is just so pretty. So yeah,
Mm.
you're saying summit and I'm like, oh, I actually really like that summit too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Awesome.
that sounds nice.
Awesome. So can you let everybody know who you are, what you're all about for those who are new to you?
Okay. So I'm Erin Prewitt, and I'm an intuitive coach. And what that looks like is um, I blend my background from facilitating conversations, training, consulting. I live in California. So most of my work has been in the US and mostly California. And then I integrate really that kind of ability to intuitively sense things, and what I like to tell clients is really it's about the soul. Like I connect with something about someone's energy, and it's like that soul of why are they here? What are they up to? And so I tell people it's like this whispering of your soul and I connecting. And when clients and I talk, they're like, yeah, I feel it. Like I feel like you're hearing something that I'm trying to pull out and trying to listen to too. So, and I do that through coaching, I consult with businesses. I work with individuals, couples, teams, and you and I met through past life regression. I integrate that. I do different types of healing modalities as needed. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I
so much
do.
fun to be able to just pull different things together and make like a personalized recipe for every client that comes in to see you, right? It's so
Yeah,
much fun.
it is.
Awesome.
It's nice.
Awesome. And one of my favorite things about you is you're super blunt and you just say it how it is.
Yes. There is not a lot of, it's funny. I was just at a dinner party and they're like, Erin, you don't filter. And I said, oh, no, I filter. I choose that I still talk this way. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, no, I think about it. And that's kind of my goal is to be super authentic to my own
Yeah.
voice and personality because that's what I'm inviting clients to do all the time. Mine is a little like right there in like I throw down whatever is my truth, where someone might be quieter, but it's still my intention is to hold space that everyone gets to show up authentically themselves
Yeah.
and make choices from that space.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And for those of you who are new to Erin, as equally as she is blunt, she is open and open to hearing and accepting and loving people as they are. And I just one of the things I love about you, Erin. So
Thank
we're
you.
here to chit chat. We're embarking on 2025. And the last time I saw you in person, I think was like 2019. It was before the pandemic. The world has shifted and changed so, so much. I remember when we were talking about 2020 and, how we were going to see the world differently and how different it was going to be. Well, here we are, and it's different. And so, what are some of the things that you're noticing coming up for people, how things have shifted and changed now that we're entering 2025?
I think it's interesting because for me, being in the US, I don't know if you've seen our elections, we are quite, I couldn't barely wrap my head around it. I would say there's been a splintering collectively. There's a splintering of beliefs, not beliefs, sorry, let me correct myself. There's a splintering of perceptions
Yeah,
that us, them, a lot of separation that has been happening, you know this, energetically for hundreds of years, if not, probably thousands. But there's something that I believe that's available where people are really starting to see the inside of someone, not just the outside, like whether it's a political party or the way they dress or where they come from. It's like we're we're being asked to see the insides, the beliefs, the fears, the hopes, the dreams. And to me, that seems to be the invitation, but it's not the way I thought it would be. I thought we were gonna be like
Yeah.
kumbaya, like let's all be come together and uh love one another, very, I think in my world, like a little hippie, like everyone's included. What I'm finding is that it's through contrast. It's through um well, two things. One is people are coming together in different way, like they have different routes to get there. And the invitation is not to judge the route, it's to welcome anyone wherever they land. So, and that's a bit of a mind warp for me. I'm like, huh? And contrast, meaning like the other pieces, I want to be more loving. Oftentimes in spaces, being around a lot of love doesn't make me more loving. It's being with lack of love or a lack of peace that has me step up my game. And I'm noticing collectively us stepping up our game. So to me, this 2025 is a really like invitation to kind of expand, to give people room to do it their way, but to know, to believe that, like, to look for the goodness, to look for the like assuming goodwill rather than being like, in our, so I, in the United States, it's like, who did you vote for? Like, that is a screening. And part of me is like, I could go there. Like, my little ego goes, like, why did you do that? But the conscious part of me goes, wait a minute. What had you vote for? What's your intention with your vote? And they say the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a better place for my children. I want to make sure I'm financially stable. I believe it that changes need to happen. It's just how we do it is different. So you're getting me in the middle of like a little mind warp, but also demanding myself to
Yeah.
be more aware of how I see the world and where I'm limited and where I could expand.
Yeah. And you know what? I think you're bringing up some great points. We have been living in a world that has, whether it's media motivated, government motivated, regardless who's motivating it, the divisive patterns have been
Mhm.
established. And
Yeah.
that mentality of ego around who's better than who, tell on your
Yeah.
neighbors, that breaking apart of community. And what I love to see, although it's usually happening during a tragedy, is regardless of who you're voting for, regardless of what you're believing in, when poop hits the fan, we come together, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that 2025, now that we have so many people opening their eyes and saying, okay, who owns that media outlet that I'm getting all of my news from? What's the motivation behind that message I keep hearing all the time? People are asking these questions now. And so my hope is that as we embark on this, that device of who benefits by us not getting along? Who benefits by us not wanting to come together and share information and share resources? Because once that step occurs, then we are closer to your kumbaya, Erin. I think that's when we're closer to all of us saying, okay, let's come together, no matter
Yes.
what your differences are. We're all here because we want all the same things. And I think you're right. The conversations I'm having too are very much around, what do we want for our families? How can we find more security? How can we find more love? How can we find more stability is a big one,
Mhm.
right? How can we become more independent and enjoy our freedoms and respect others? And so I think everybody's sharing the same concerns, goals, and aspirations. It's just the roads to get there that are a little bit different right now. And there's so much polarization with economics and everything else going on that we can't really expect everyone to walk the same road right now because some of those
Yeah.
roads are filled with homeless camps and poverty and lines out food banks and all of that, and others are, in a totally different circumstance. So it's been an interesting ride to say the least, but I don't think without blessings as well.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. You're saying blessings. Like you have to lean into it and almost look for it.
Hmm.
Instead of me going, here are the blessings, it's really obvious. I have to kind of like I'm at a thrift store, right? Do you guys call it thrift store in
Yeah.
Canada? Okay. You have to kind of search for it a little bit because it might not be the way you thought the blessings were going to come or packaged the way you wanted. And so yeah, so that's what I'm noticing, at least for myself. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
it's
I think
here.
you're right. I think you're right because if you think about it, and I'm not saying exclusively like our parents' generation, but certainly older generations, they were not trained to question authority.
Mhm.
If the bank said do this, that's what they did. If a doctor said do this, they would do what they were told and how they were told to do it, usually. Um, but I don't find that that's the programming being run anymore. So you've got establishments that are fighting to keep their establishments, and you've got people who are in unrest for various reasons saying, but why should I? What is in it for me? And I don't even think that that me question is a matter of ego and arrogance. I think it's a matter of survival
Yeah.
and me being the collective of all of us coming together. Because if I'm benefiting, you're benefiting, and we can all come together that way. And that definitely is not a new way of thinking, but a repurposed way of thinking, if you will, because
Yeah.
we maybe weren't raised this way. We've been all back porch families and individuals, but generations previous to us were not. And they knew they
Yeah.
needed to come together to survive. They knew they needed to come together to thrive. And I think that that's the shift. It's coming back to that, but in a whole new way.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's got a whole different like shape to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you do a lot of really fun work bringing people together and really looking at like the past and how it's influencing now and where do you want to go from here. And so knowing what the past has been, what are some of those resources you think people can pull from to shape their future, to move in the direction they're wanting to go?
I I think people, for me, it's like I think of it in a macro, like a micro and a macro level. So when you look at yourself and you're kind of like, say, you're going, okay, I'm doing this like audit of who am I? What do I want? It's kind of looking at your life and going, okay, well, first I think it's just assessing what do I want? Who do I want to be? And usually for me, it's like, who do I want to be? And then how am I going to behave? So, and that sometimes shapes my thinking, which shapes my behavior. So there's a lot of that happening. And then I look at my work. And for me, anyone that's in this, like wanting to awaken consciously, want to like swim in the pool of intuition and spirituality, it's an I beginning oftentimes, and then a we. And for me, it's like, what do I need to work on? Where am I? Maybe I start with where am I dissatisfied? Where am I kind of stuck? I oftentimes look at through where my fears are. And those are my, all right, let's get into that corner. And how do I learn and grow and become something that I actually talk clients through? And it's hilarious. Like, I was talking to a client, husband and wife, and the wife asked for a separate session, and she said something about feeling gaslit by her partner. She was sharing something, and he was just flipping it and turning it. And ultimately, in that relationship, he had a fear, so he was having a hard time being with what she was saying. I had such an epiphany. I literally, at the end of the session, walk and talk to my partner, Carl, and I'm like, I totally gaslit you about this thing. And he was like, I came out of nowhere. Like, he was like, what? Like, what's happening? He's probably watching football or something. And I just owned it because I saw it. And for me, that's the I part is like, what did I need to work on? What do I need to like grow in? And then I can hold that space from coaching, from how I move in the world at the grocery store. I can be more of that. And for me, it's like living consciously with integrity. I don't need to go be, you know, Oprah Winfrey. That's not like if I am, I'm gonna give me the money, but it doesn't mean I have to jump into this space and be someone else. It's what's going on in my life that I need to work on. And I use the litmus test of like, if I feel like I trust, I so I'm living less from fear, and I feel like people lean into me and I lean into them more lovingly, those are my like measurements. Like, okay, I'm moving the right direction. And then I have actually more freedom to work in that and be with people because I'm doing my own work inside my own home. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
It does. It does. And you said a couple really important things. The one is that it's not contest with anyone. And I think that that shift has really happened. There doesn't seem to be that same, um, wanting to be Oprah Winfrey when we grow up or wanting to
Yeah.
be someone else. I think most of us are in that space of, I want to just be me. And some watching right now are saying, but I don't even know who I am yet. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's totally okay. I think we all go through phases where we're in that darkness of, I don't even know who I am today, but I know I'm better than what I was yesterday, right?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so I love that part that you mentioned because we just have to show up authentically, who we are. Um, and then also that whole personal responsibility piece around, okay, now how did I play a role in this? And that's a huge shift from victimhood
Mm.
into owning our life, owning our future. And I really love that part because when we do the work for and of ourselves to grow into who we're meant to be, that allows us to own it authentically and
Mm.
say, no one gave this to me. I am me because I stepped into my space. And
Mm.
I'm allowed to make mistakes here. And I'm allowed to apologize after and say, hey, I just had an epiphany and realized that I messed up back there and I'm sorry for that. And I'm willing to do the work to do better next time. And I
Mm.
think that if we step into just these simple spaces, not only is it remarkable for us as personal development and growth, but imagine our relationships and what they
Mm.
can look like when we can stand into that space without the fear, just the love and the understanding that we all have permission to grow as we're needing to grow in the pot we've got.
Yeah. I I think it's really yeah, I think it's something you can see it in people. Like just I invite anyone to like when you're at the next dinner party or you can tell when people are kind of growth mindseted, and it doesn't mean growth like, oh, I can like I'm this like new guru of enlightenment. It's just like I'm doing my own little work, chipping away at my own little ego. I play pickleball. I don't know. Pickleball's pretty big everywhere. Is it big in Canada? Okay.
It is,
So,
yeah.
oh, okay. So I'm young in pickleball. I'm
I was gonna
49. I'm not
say
young.
it's big for the older generations, but I
Okay.
didn't want to go there because I'm only a couple months younger than you. So
So I'm so I'm loving what I love about it is I'm young. It's fun. It's like, and I get to be around all these wisdom keepers. And what I saw, like, just played this weekend, and my friend and I played two different pairs. And we in one pair, there was this guy, and he's good, 15, 20 years older than me, so probably in his late 60s. And I went, oh, that's not how I want to age. The way he played, the way he interacted with us was there was a little bit of righteousness. There was a little bit of this is how you do it. It was rigid. Then comes this guy who's probably like 25, 30 years older than me. And he was like laughing and joyful. He might have given some information, but he was flexible. And I looked at him and I was like, that's how I want to age. And what you noticed is like he walked into spaces, like groups of people, and they would like lean in. The other guy was like couldn't was struggling finding a buddy because it's a big community pickleball. And that's when I'm like, so what do I need to do that I can be more like this flexible, gracious kind of human compared to this rigid, inflexible human? And for me, I value flexibility because I like when people are flexible with me and there's like we can work it out. But I think it takes work. And we might have to own the spaces where we're rigid or where we're fear-based or where we retract and be like, okay, wait, if I add 10 years to this, what will that look like in me? And I'm really honest with myself. I'm like, ooh, that be ugly. That be super, that is not pretty. And I have work to do then. So for me, I think that I love pickleball because I'm so observant of age and growing how I want to be in the world. And so I just invite people like as you go into spaces, you might like, oh, wow, there's a couple that I'm like, ooh, I don't like how they communicate, but I notice I do this thing with my partner. Okay, that's not going to age well. How do I shift that? Or, ooh, look at that parent. They're really controlling of their kid. They're going to be on the struggle bus when it comes to being a parent of an adult. And I think just like noticing people and then taking in instead of judging it, I can't say that I'm not judgment free. You can hear the judgment in what I'm saying. But I think for me, I'm fun. I played with both guys, but I learned something from both of them was,
Mhm.
oh, you look like life is more fun. I want to have more fun. And I'm going to watch you and see and lean that way because that's kind of what I want in my world.
I love that. And I love this idea of it's not necessarily judgment, but it is observation. And
Yeah.
it's saying this energy resonates with me. This open, carefree, flexible energy that resonates with me. And
Mm.
someone who is more like, I need the structure, I need the little box, it helps make me feel safe. They may have very much set the other direction, like, oh, like I really like that feels safe to me to be, playing by the rules and to go within it in that way. So it's not that it's judgment in right or wrong, but it's
Mm.
judgment in resonance as a teacher. And I love that you pointed out that both men were teachers for you
Mm.
because they both showed up in that role. And it's okay that you don't resonate with someone. I
Yeah.
think that that's maybe the myth of personal development from the last quarter century was that when you're enlightened you love everybody. And yes,
Yes.
we love everybody, but we don't necessarily want to invite them all for dinner and have them for tea, right?
Yeah.
And that's totally okay because we're all flying at a different frequency. I know
Mm.
sometimes people will say to me, well, Sam, like you do readings and you do coaching. Why do you ever promote other people that do that? Like, aren't you worried it's going to steal your business? That never even crosses my mind. If they get business from it, how wonderful. I love that I can open that door and make that
Yeah.
introduction. But people will go with who they resonate with anyhow. I don't have the power to stop that or interrupt that. It's just my job to show up, right? And so I love that you're able to just point that out and just say, hey, you know what, we all have work to do. And I love this
Mm.
idea of look 10 years out and age with grace and move in with it. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at things.
Yeah. It's helping me. And then and these are the conversations I'm having. I have a client that's 75 and him and I said something. I said, why don't we go out 2 years? And he just starts laughing. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, because I'm 75. You're not going to go out 10 years. And I was like, true. Like, and he's looking at where he's limited in his community and how does he expand? And I'm just like, wow, how beautiful that is. I really just appreciate people. I feel like my humanity connects with other people's humanity when they're doing the work. They're going into the dark crevices. They're trying to figure it out. They don't have it all settled because none of us have it figured out. Just some of us are very good at faking that we have it figured out.
If
which is
anyone
good.
says they've got it fake, if they say they've got it all figured out,
Yeah.
chances are they are really great at dressing it up. Yeah,
Yeah, my one sister,
working on stuff. Yeah.
yeah, she was like, I was a really great mother of children. She goes, I'm really not sure I'm a good mother of adults. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm laughing because I was like, oh, I wasn't a bad mother of a child, but I struggled. And I'm having a lot more like, oh, I feel a little more certain about being a mother of an adult. And we're laughing. I was like, I was envious of her. She was so clear. And now she's looking at me like, how did you know to do that? I'm like, I don't know. I had no idea what to do when she was 3 and losing her crap. And my child was, I was like, what the heck? And I just think that we could connect not because we have it figured out, but because we are being honest about where our struggle is and just being like, yeah, it's like just embracing the humanness. Like, yeah, this is hard. Or yeah, it looks like that's a little easy for you. It is. This is a lot easier. And that was really hard, you know?
Yeah, I think I thought younger children were so much easier. I thought I had it all figured out, you know that? And then they grow up and they tell you things, you're like, "Oh, maybe I could have done that a little bit better. Maybe I wasn't the rock star I thought that I was, you know?" But it's fascinating and regardless, they picked us for a reason, good or bad, right?
Mhm.
And I think that this whole idea around not looking at it from a punishment, but
Mhm.
looking at it from a, yeah, that was really hard, or that was easier than I thought, but this is tough. Like this is, you know, the tough stuff because we are looking at younger us every day and every time we go out. And so I love getting in the practice of where I see like the brattiest kid in the store and I say to the mom, "You're doing really good."
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
just to as my way of giving back because we've all had those moments, right? I remember one of ours was very upset to not get a Yoda toy in Costco. And so he started, you know, I want it. And we said, well, if you're going to keep acting up, you're going to leave the store and, you know, you have to wait outside at the car. And he didn't stop. So Chris picked him up and started carrying him out of Costco. And he's screaming, "This isn't my daddy. I
Oh, sweet
so,
kids.
so he's, you know, I get out of the Costco with the other kids. Of course, we had 5 kids. So, you know, our little gang walking out of Costco with our full cart. And Chris is standing in the middle of the driveway in Costco. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then I hear it. "Help me. That's a kidnapper. Somebody help me." And he's like, "I swear to God, it's my kid." And he's like, "What did I do to deserve this?" It's just like, I don't know. But I think every parent has those stories. Every parent has
Mm.
had that day. And
Yeah.
even if you're not a parent, every person has had those days where you're like, what did I do
Mhm.
to
Yes.
get this today? You know, and being able to just look at it with that love and that grace and that kindness of saying, you know what, I have these tools and I'm just doing the best that I can with it today.
Yeah.
And 20 years from now, I would imagine I probably have better tools and I can look at it and go, wow, next time I would do it differently, right?
Totally, totally. Yeah. Sometimes I was like, wow, I don't know why I did that. But it brings compassion. So when you're interacting, when you self-reflect and you see like, oh, maybe there was better options, or if I had the tools I had now, or that insight or patience, whatever it is, I I think owning that is just it's so much freedom.
Yes.
Like I'm like, oh, like people are like, why? People are like, you really show up yourself. Why? And I said, I think I really out myself on who I am fully, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I have a client who's a little quieter. She's like, I don't know if I can move in the world like you do because I'm not this like big person. I'm like, oh, thank God. Can you imagine if we are all like walk in the room like me and like, oh, we'd all just bump into each other? I said, but there's times when even as a quieter person or reserved, that you can like accept that you're quiet in the space, like enjoy that that's who you are. Or if there's something, there's an interaction and you have something you want to say or don't want to say. I I had a client one time, I had this event and she's pretty quiet and someone said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And she's like, "I'm not going to talk about that tonight." And they were like, "Oh." And so the person goes, "Well, what would you like to talk about?" She goes, "I would like to talk about," and then she named it. And I was so proud of her because she was like, "Yeah, I don't want, that's not what I want to talk about
I
tonight."
love that. That's such a me thing to say.
Yeah.
I
And
love that
I'm like,
so much.
I'm like, because I'm like, oh yeah, there's choice in the matter. Like it's a reminder to me, like, you get to just choose. And so for me, and I just love people stepping in who they are. And I think people ultimately are really good with each other when, like, hey, you're this way, okay, we can really embrace it.
Yeah, I love that too. And there's so much more room at the table when we get to all be ourselves. The
Mhm.
conversation, like just this image of the dinner party, right? And understanding that we can invite all these different personalities. And, think about how it used to be at a dinner party. You would sit people who would be interested in what the other ones had to say.
Yeah.
And just that's how we find out how fascinating everyone is. And everyone is fascinating, even if they think they have the most boring job on the planet. There's something really fascinating that they have to share. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's that lean in, like just lean into people and you'll learn and ask questions. Yeah, people have interesting lives, interesting beliefs, stories.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Erin, if you were to pick one great tool that people can just use to help them navigate the waters of 2025, what would that one thing be?
For me, it's doing, well, it's kind of okay. I'm gonna say it's finding your center, but finding the path to get there. So my tendency is to meditate, like to close off the world and go in. But as I've worked with people, I'm like, oh, their space might actually to find inspiration or to get connected is to go into the world and be with people. But I would explore your center and look at it from, so I did a vision quest years ago, and they dropped us off in spaces by ourselves. So I'm by myself for like 3 days. But at one point she came, the woman running the Vision Quest came to me and she said, and she didn't talk to me. She kind of, you weren't allowed to talk. So it was all gestures. So it was very interesting. But I kept closing my eyes and going in. And somehow she was able to communicate, Erin, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're in nature. Why are you closing your eyes? You're supposed to open your eyes and be with nature. And I was like, duh. Like it was such a like a duh. I was like, why was I going? I could take close my eyes and go in any, that's what I do in life. So my invitation for people, anyone listening, is to explore. And explore means try something. If you like it, if it feels right, to keep it. If it doesn't, move on. It's like, try on clothes. Explore where you find that centering. And that sometimes is closing off the world and going in. And then sometimes, and that could be in meditation, that could be maybe in an exercise, that could be listening to music, whatever closes you off, or it's going into the world and opening yourself up, whether it's nature or whether it's groups of people. I feel like when you found that center usually feels peaceful, connected, inspired. Sometimes emotions come up, like you're able to like free some stuff up. And I would just invite people to explore that and use it. And then one day maybe it doesn't work, and then you're trying something else because we are humans. We change, we alter. What we need changes, and a lot of us kind of like sometimes I hear people say like, "I used to love running, but now my knees hurt." I'm like, "All right, well, now you're back to then it just means you're back to the exploration. Come back. What movement works for your knees and works for you?" Same thing with finding your center. It's like, okay, that worked in your 40s. Now you're in your 50s. What, go back to exploring and try again and see what feels right.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love you. Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Now,
my pleasure.
I know you've got your soul launching coming up for 2025. So before we say goodbye, can you share with everybody how they can connect with you and learn more about that?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, erinprewitt.com. You can also Instagram. I'm the real Erin Prewitt. Yes, I have a look. The real Erin Prewitt on Instagram and Erin Prewitt on Facebook. And if anyone's interested and they want to have a session like, hey, I want to tap into my soul for 2025, I give some very practical, customize the readings, but I also give practical things like vision board, vision quest, different things you can do. You can do a mini or a full reading with me. I'm remote. I work with anyone or I work with people around the world. So if it feels like, yeah, I like what you're saying, I want more of that, customed, reach out to me. And if you're like, nope, then don't. And both are perfect.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Erin. Now, I know you guys have been loving Erin. You'll definitely want to go and check her out. You can follow her on Instagram, or as she mentioned, check her out on her website. And stay tuned for some more amazing speakers for our final day of the Consciously Creating Your 2025 Summit, because that's what's all about, consciously creating your life, your world. And nothing is wrong when it feels right. Just go on into your center, like Erin mentioned, and trust what is coming up for you.